Now, if you've been with me, which I hope you have, and if you're a young person and watching these, oh, that's great. So impressive. Very impressive to him. Keep doing it, and he'll give you knowledge and understanding. If you've been with me, we just discussed that really, really intense event where Jesus got angry, and then they got angry, at him because he really put them in their place, and it's in the temple. That temple event, we'll call it. And then the next story is back to the fig tree. But first, he went home that night, or not home, but where he stayed. The Bible doesn't say where he stayed at that point. I think it's Bethany. Probably, almost for sure. Lazarus, Martha, Mary, those brother and sisters. Could have been Simon, a different Simon. Anyway, I mentioned that last time. They came back in the morning. They keep going back and forth. And in this time, as they're coming back, Peter saw the fig tree that he had cursed, that he said, you're not going to bear fruit anymore. And so let's pick it up there. Really intense. It says, and in the morning, as they passed by. Now, actually, if you say in the morning, as they passed by, I want you to switch it because actually the literal Greek, you could say it that way either way, but the literal Greek is instead of in the morning as they pass by, it's as they pass by in the morning. And I think there's a significance of that in morning. I hope I remember to get back to that. And in the morning as they passed by, they saw the fig tree. Yep, there's a center of attention again. Really the center of attention is Jesus, who we should always be having him as the center of all our attention. Whoops, Peter, don't fall. All right, all the time. And so it says, in the morning as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from its roots. What? Actually, I didn't want to pick off all these leaves and all. Of course, the leaves could have still, oh, wow, don't fall over. It's shocking, but okay, come on. I don't know that the leaves were gone. Maybe could have been just a dead tree, but it could have been just already withering. But the roots, it just kind of withered and it fell over, I guess. So let's take it and make it fall over. Now, if I was that fig tree, I know this is going to really be weird, but I've thought about this. If I was that fig tree, now this is going to be weird, but this is how I think sometimes. If I was that fig tree, and I was going to be used by the Savior for an illustration to the world, not only these guys, but to us, you and me, I would be okay if I died, if I withered up. I know that may sound strange, and you think Jesus is like mean to this fig tree. No, he wasn't. And he wasn't angry at the fig tree. Oh, well, look, you don't have fruit and I was hungry. Off with your head, or off with your roots, No. But he used that to really teach something deep. What is he trying to teach? Well, let me read on. We'll come back. Keep you in suspense. No, I already told you, but I don't know if you remember, or maybe you haven't heard. It says, as it passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. I don't know, maybe it was just kind of really just came out, or, maybe you couldn't see the roots, but everything dried up really quick and it just kind of went into brown and no green leaves. I don't know. But they knew that it was totally destroyed. That's the point of the writer, and that's the point of what they saw. It died. How fast was that? We'll get into that in a minute. It says, and Peter calling to remembrance. He remembered this. I always picked him from way back as Peter. Could have been any of these guys or whatever. Peter remembered, wait, you just did that. He said this, Master, he's talking to Jesus, so let him turn here and talk to Jesus for a second. He said, Master, look, the fig tree which you cursed is withered away. And that's it on what I'm going to go to in verses. He goes on and explains something right here. Now, Jesus never did tell why he did it, although it might have been in these next verses right here. And in other words, he didn't explain everything he was doing, but there's some depth to it, and Jesus never does anything without a purpose. Did you hear what I just said? God never does anything without a purpose. So in your life, if God's dealing with something, he's allowing you to go through something, maybe like this fig tree is going through some or whatever, really suffering or whatever, he has a purpose for it. And though you got to trust him, you have to have faith in God. Now, so what he goes on and explains, I think, what he did. Now, I think it's very possible that because the fig tree is mentioned over and over in the Old Testament as representing Israel, the people of Israel, the Jewish nation, the precious Jewish nation, that he's really using that as an illustration for something, like it's withered up and destroyed. And he's warning, or he's predicting what's going to happen possibly to the Israel, to that people. And he just did something, if you remember, the day before. By the way, the last video I did, I wanted to mention this. It was really, really late at night. I do these usually at really 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Seriously. I was so tired, and I happened to watch it. I go, oh my goodness. I didn't want to redo it. I have to keep going. I have a busy schedule. But there were several mistakes I did in it. Sorry. Figure them out. Like, one is I said, oh, that was Tuesday, and I think this is Tuesday, this morning. Anyway, there's a few things I said wrong. I even corrected one of them. If you were carefully listening to that, I even said, wait, I read the wrong verse, and like it withered and died and all that when he cursed it. I think it was the last one that I did. It was like really tough. But the day before, if you remember, this is when he went in there and he really tore it up. Like, he came in here in the court of the Gentiles in this area. Most likely it was here. Definitely wasn't in here that he did it. Almost for sure down here. It could have been somewhere else, but I think it was mainly down here where they were selling and buying, and that was not as bad as it was, especially they were ripping them off with money. But actually his rebuke wasn't the swindling them and the evil that they were doing. It's having it in the house of God. So I think it was right there. It should have been outside in the precincts out here somewhere, but they did it right there for convenience. All right, so in what people have termed as the royal porch. So that's what that was in that time. So he did this, the day before on Monday, and then Tuesday he comes around and they see the fig tree withered, dead. Now, I believe when the writer said in the morning, I think there's a purpose of that. In the morning as they pass by. So I think or actually as they pass by in the morning they saw. I think the writer, Mark, is trying to say they saw the fig tree now. I think that it withered and died immediately that day when he said no more fruit. He walked in the temple. When they came out, I think it was twilight. Is that the right word? Really dark out. They came out and they couldn't see. Maybe they went a different way back to Bethany. Why do I say that? Because in Matthew chapter 21, the story is mentioned and it says it withered immediately. It died. Like it just started going out really quick. Regardless. I mean, he could have just, kind of saying, wow, it happened really quick, like immediately. And then it did it over the night, and then the next day it was like that. And then they found it there. Or it had already done it. It had already done it right away. Like as they walked away from it when he cursed it, he went in, and then they come out and they didn't see it because it was dark. They couldn't see it. And then that day they actually saw it. So that's how you combine those. I think that's very possible. And it says, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots, and that's when he called the remembrance. By the way, if you remember, speaking of remembrance, Peter is the one, by tradition, who was speaking to another guy. We'll just pick him as he's not one of these guys. A guy named John Mark, and I've mentioned him before, the one who wrote Mark. And he was telling him all these stories in his remembrance. He remembered that. And Mark said, yeah, he remembered that. He was an eyewitness to all this. Peter was. So he had details. And Mark, by the way, has a lot of details in it because he remembered it. I would too if I would. I remember certain events, you do too, in your life that you can remember everything. I remember where I was. I remember what was said. I remember this. I remember like really a lot of details. They remembered that tree just like that. Now, he was astonished. They were astonished. And Peter tended to be the one that spoke up for the rest of them. They were amazed. Think about that. you don't just speak to something physical, matter, material, and just you have power over it. He did. Power of God rested on Jesus. He was God on the inside, and the Spirit of God was upon him, and he just spoke, and that thing died. Ooh, very, very cool. Now, I think it could have been sort of like, I have this sandwich here. I'm going to bring it out to you, and I don't have meat and all, so I put cheese in it and I didn't want to put peanut butter on it because it's sticky and all. But it's possible that the tree represents Israel, because it's used a lot in the Bible, and the idea of him cursing the fig tree, going in the temple and kind of rebuking them big time, and then coming out of the temple, okay, and then from there seeing the fig tree, it's kind of like a sandwich. Or it could be that the fig tree is not about Israel, but Jesus wanted to do this in order for an illustration of the next story that we're going to get into next video. And that's about faith and prayer, or the power of that. Because it's not definite that the fig tree has something to do with Israel. I think it really does. And I think he's multitasking here. That Jesus has multiple things he's trying to teach the disciples. And again, the sandwich idea was like this. Mark mentioned the fig tree cursing. The next story is the temple rebukes, when he really corrected them and got, tore it up basically, and threw tables and all that. I was going to say chairs. And then the next story is a fig tree destruction. That seems like it's back to the fig tree. It's a sandwich. Bread, meat, or cheese or whatever. And then fig tree destruction. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? If you don't, I'll explain it this way. What is he saying? So we've got a sandwich here. So here's a fig tree. And then you got, I love Swiss cheese, by the way, Swiss cheese. And then you got this back to the fig tree. And you've got a sandwich. And it could be that the cheese has something to do with the fig tree. The temple has something to do with the fig tree. Could be. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it's just relating to the next story of faith. The power of faith. Or he's really saying the fig tree is being cursed, and the nation of Israel, which is usually the fig tree in the Old Testament, and it talks about roots. There's different passages, like Job has a couple passages about roots. And who else? Ezekiel has a passage. Was it Micah had a passage? I looked these up. But here it is. See this? If this is the temple, and he just cursed the fig tree Israel, and he's now rebuking these guys, and later he predicts not only the cursing of the temple, of the fig tree, he predicts the destruction of the city. The whole city is going to be destroyed. He's predicting it. And as surely as the fig tree got predicted cursed, and it died, so his predictions will come to pass of Israel, of Jerusalem, and the temple and everything coming down. It's going to be destroyed. Not one stone is going to remain on another. I'll explain that when we get to it. Do you see how this could really be an illustration that what Jesus predicts happens? So, because nobody's going to believe the temple of God, like where God resides, his house, the house of prayer. No one's going to destroy that. God's going to protect it. Jesus is warning them. No, he isn't. Pretty soon he's going to predict it. And if they're really getting the clues from Jesus, he predicted that to die, and it happened quickly. And guess what? 40 years later, less than 40 years later, the temple was destroyed. In 66 AD, they started attacking Titus from Rome, came in and started attacking the Israel and the Jerusalem, and they burned it down. They destroyed it. So he predicted the cursing of the temple, of the fig tree. And he's really warning these guys that you made this, you're using this temple wrong. And then later he predicts the destruction of the city. And as surely as this went down, and it did go down, that city's going to go down. And they wouldn't have believed it almost. But if you think about it, say, wait, Jesus, he predicted that fig tree to be destroyed. And coming up here soon, he's going to predict the city to be destroyed. Do you get it? I hope you got it. I think that's it on that. I hope you are learning, and I hope you're enjoying this. Sort of enjoying it and sort of not. I mean, I feel grief. I feel pain for him and what he felt. Like, he's knowing all this is going to happen. Just a few days from now, he's going to be destroyed. He's going to be killed. Like, and he's teaching them. He's loving everybody. He's not thinking, poor me, poor me. What a savior. I keep saying that. What a savior. All right, so come back and join me for the next one. Some are going to be better than others. You know, this is a good one, I think. But there's other ones like this next one. Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. Get a preview on this one. This is the bomb. The bomb. This is really, really packed, powerful. So come ready to listen on that one. All right, thanks for listening to this one. God bless you.